If you don't like it, hope you stub your toe.
What's up, weirdos? Welcome to Fun and Bummer, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the just fine. My name is Carson.
And my name's Theron, and today we're going to be talking about your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. That's whatever Spider-Man. Okay.
Before we even get too deep into it, it's, I guess, sort of a spoiler, but not really. One of my first notes was, damn it, I like the theme song.
One of my first notes was, this is the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
So, I guess to get right into it, we're talking about the first two episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It's a new Disney Plus cartoon.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's there's not a whole lot that we can really say without spoiling it.
Yeah. So we should just get right into it. It's only 2 episodes, so let's just jump right in.
I'll just go ahead and tell you, I really liked the first 2 episodes overall.
Yeah.
There's
You know what?
There's some stuff they can work on. The animation, I liked it a lot, but I had watched it just like by myself, and then I rewatched it with my kids, and the animation grew on me the second rewatch. Still an adjustment. It's a choice.
Yeah, it's
but
like beer.
I liked it
like,
a lot better.
It's like beer where you like it, but it takes a while to like it, you know? That doesn't speak well to its quality when you have to adjust to something like that.
Right.
But yeah, so it's the most horrendously hideous show I've ever seen. And, you know, I've seen Kathy Griffin. So I mean, it's really ugly. And it's hard for me to get past that. I did enjoy it. I really did, but it was hard to get past, but I did get past it. But
I think the second episode especially is better with it.
yeah,
Overall,
I don't know.
We'll get into it.
I don't know whose decision the animation was, but they need to not have a job anymore.
So overall, the animation, you're either gonna like it or you're really not. But it's very different. I at least appreciate that they tried something. I just wish they tried something else.
Like if they were gonna do this style with the comic books, whatever, that's fine. But you know what I would like to see, like in the shading, because there is shading. I would have put the little dots like in the comic books, the older ones. You know,
Yeah.
like that's what I would have done for the shading. It would have made it a lot more stylistic and not just hideous. I think that could have really upgraded the style.
That's a good point. They also keep referencing, like, this is a very specific weird thing to critique, but like, it doesn't ultimately matter. But anyway, they keep saying that they are like drawing from the early comic books.
Yeah, he looks
like
exactly
in the
like
60s, and it's like, oh, it's Steve Ditko and all of that, and it's like, not really. Like they got, I don't know, the overall design is from that, but like the actual art style, it feels more like from the, I think it's the 80s, 70s or 80s with John Romita Sr., but that's more of a, I don't know. Anyway,
well, barring all the race swap characters, which is everyone except Peter Parker, he looks just like the comic
and
version.
Aunt May.
Yeah,
and Aunt May.
Oh my god,
she looks like Aunt May from the movies.
Every time I hear Aunt May, I think of my dog, because that's what my child decided to name her. And second of all, people were like, man, they just keep making Aunt May hotter and hotter. And I'm like, you think this square chin bitch is hot? Not only is she animated, she's like,
well, that's not a that's not a qualifier.
She's like, she could open a can with her chin, bro. I mean, Jesus Christ.
The actual character models also vary in quality and like who's even finished, like who looks like they're an actual finished character
Yeah.
design. Anyway,
So I will
I
say
think that's as far as we can go
with the
without
animation.
spoiling it. Yeah. Yeah. No, I liked the first 2 episodes.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
it was
people should go
definitely
check it out.
it was enjoyable. It was entertaining, hideous but entertaining, just like Kathy Griffin. Anyway, I'm sorry.
I don't. You're not, but I appreciate the apology nonetheless.
Okay.
So we'll just go ahead and say, go watch it. We'll do
Pause
we'll
this
do another.
video and go
Yes.
watch it.
Go watch your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Yeah, we'll do another episode when the last episode has come out. We have some other Marvel stuff that we'll be covering between now and then. But yeah, we'll get to it. I think that's your final moment of non-spoilers.
So now we're moving into the like gluten.
The spoilers.
Yes. I love that we just completely skipped the origin story. Everyone knows how Spider-Man happened. We don't need another origin story. I was very happy to see that.
So, because the show itself kind of went through changes like midway through even making it. Originally, this was called Freshman Year, and it was supposed to actually be Tom Holland's like MCU Spider-Man. It was supposed to be canon to that, and it was going to be like an actual prequel show. Mm-hmm. And then about not even halfway through making it, the creators were like, we literally can't do anything without it messing up the movies or something. And we can't mess with like any of the characters or villains from the comics because it'll mess with the movie somehow. And so they ended up doing, it's sort of a what if, like alternate reality type of situation. It's like instead of, there are moments that it mirrors like Civil War and his introduction there. But then it like shows there's like a splinter point where his path veers off in a different direction, and we get to see like the differences. But so yeah, it's sort of Tom Holland Spider-Man, but not really. It's an alternate version of him. And so like we still kind of get to skip the origin.
Much less handsome, I must say.
Much less handsome.
Oh my god, don't even get me started on Tom Holland.
He looks enough like him to be like, oh yeah, that's who that is, but not enough to.
This is like if Peter Parker was a virgin. That's what this series is.
Which, oh my god, I cannot tell you how this is more of a thing of it, just like the more recent iterations of Peter Parker Spider-Man outside of the comic books. This is more of a thing towards that, not the show specifically. I am sick and tired of this golly gee, I'm the awkward adorable guy. Like, I am sick and tired of that version of Peter Parker because it's not at all like
he can't freaking get out of high school. He's in college in the comics. Why is he always stuck in high school?
There is it is insane and incredible for Spider-Man to be the most beloved like superhero ever and to be the Marvel mascot, and his comic and Marvel hates him.
Just like Star Wars, they take what we love and they're like, we're just gonna do it worse.
They just refuse to let this poor man age and mature and grow. Like, they just can't. And part of it is because of Sony owning them. They're like owning the rights, but like it's been going on even well before that. You know, like I don't know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But they just continue to be like, no, he's most relatable in high school. You know that time period that he didn't even spend that much time in the comics?
Right. Yeah.
And then they just kept bringing him back and back.
Yeah, it's like, it's the safe option, you know? They're like, oh, this is what we've been doing. Why should we change what we're doing? Because it's worked in the past. And what really befuddles me... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
All I was going to say is that at least for me, this time around, I appreciate that they are at least trying to do something different with it. And it feels familiar but fresh at the same time.
Familiar but fresh. The two F's of quality. Familiar and fresh. So
what befuddles you?
So like we were just saying, that he can't escape high school.
Yes.
But in the Tobey Maguire movie, why didn't they just start him in college? All of those actors were obviously 30 years old. Why would you not just start him in college?
And the way that they do a scene of him in high school and then they just skip right to graduation. There's no real point to it.
And my favorite part about that whole scene, not the whole graduation scene, but the first scene in the movie when they're walking through the laboratory.
Yes.
Is the teacher is the youngest looking person in the entire room.
I will never forget being a kid watching that movie, and it was genuinely years that I realized that was supposed to be the teacher. As a kid, I thought that was like the freaking teacher's pet kid.
Yeah.
I did not understand that was supposed to be just a full-grown man because he was with a bunch of 30-year-olds.
He was the youngest looking person in the group.
Like when he's getting on to Joe Manganiello as Flash Thompson, I'm just like, is that your father? Like, who are we talking to?
Carson.
Yes.
Somehow I doubt it.
Hey.
I don't need to tell you why.
Because he's bald. I get it.
Yep, you got it.
Just like you.
Anyway. Moving on. I liked, there were some nice details that I liked. How Pearl, first of all, I thought it was MJ and I thought it was the curse of the gingers again. You know how they have to make ginger characters a different race. And I was like,
yeah.
But it was Pearl, and she's pretty much the exact same as she is in the comics. And a detail that I really like is that she's on the swim team. I was like, because she's an aquatic hero in the comics, and I was like, oh, that's a nice little detail.
Talk about deep cut too. She's like, she's only been around for, I think 4 or 5 years, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's like an Atlantean mutant character.
Yeah.
Wave. That's it. Her name is Wave. That's like her.
Whoa.
Her hero name.
Here comes a wave.
So at least for me, I feel like the positives are going to be the majority of what I'm going to be talking about. In getting things I didn't like out of the way.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Before we get too far into the positives, there were only a few things I didn't really like. We kind of already touched on it with the animation. Like, I get they're going for the comic booky look, and I think in certain parts it looks really good. I think when he's swinging, it looks good. I think when there's like action happening, like I can follow it. I can tell what's happening. And it doesn't look completely horrible.
Yeah.
It's mainly when people are just sitting or standing there, especially if there are background characters.
I had the exact same note. They're just static. Like, there's no small movements or anything. They're just a painting in the background of a scene. And it's like, it makes it feel so unalive, you know? It just doesn't feel lively at all when they're just like a poster board in the background.
Like when they're moving, it's great. And
Yeah.
we're getting it. But if they stand still for a moment, it's so ugly.
This isn't how people, they're, even if they don't realize it, they're moving 100% of the time. Like, there is no just standing static, especially when you're not doing anything. You know what I mean? So it's like, it doesn't, they're too, we need a little more action from the people in the background. Why even have them if you're just going to have them be poster board, you know?
Genuinely, I think Peter and Lonnie are the only two characters that consistently, they at least would give them some slight movement.
Yeah. Can I date
anybody
Lonnie?
Else? I sure would like to.
Dude, I was like, when he was first introduced, I was like, oh, this freaking guy stealing the girl. And then they started hanging out. I was like, man, I kind of want to date Lonnie now.
So, a couple of things about Lonnie. One, the second that Peter was like, oh, I can't believe she's dating Lonnie Lincoln. My first thought, because I know who he turns into later, spoiler alert, he becomes the villain known as Tombstone, which, not to skip ahead to the positives, but because we're talking about Lonnie, in the intro, when it's going through the like main characters and everything, when it gets to Lonnie, the main color going over him is like a grayish blue, kind of foreshadowing the Tombstone of it. I love that. But shut up.
I'm sorry.
You just can't help yourself. But whenever he first showed up, my first thought was like, oh no. And then secondly, it was also like, oh, he's gonna like it. I fully thought he was going to be the stereotypical, like I thought he was going to be the new Flash Thompson.
Yeah, I thought that too.
And be like the dumb jock. And then when he's like, oh, I want Peter as my lab partner, I was like, Pete, you're in for it now, buddy. Like,
he's gonna pick on you. He's gonna just ride off your success. But then he was like, yeah, I like smart people because I'm a smart person.
And I loved that. But that's the only moment that, because this kind of goes back to another complaint that I had earlier about sometimes. So in the comic books, especially, and I think the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, he's my favorite live action one. Mm-hmm. I think he got the closest to the fact that Peter Parker is sometimes an asshole.
Yeah.
And this Peter, the closest he got was assuming that Lonnie was just the biggest dumbass ever. And he was like, so when these things do this, it's because, like, he started talking to him like an idiot. That's the closest he's gotten. But then he immediately apologized and everything. I was like, oh, well, you know, he almost had it.
Maybe I misjudged you, Lonnie Lonson, or whatever your last name is.
But another thing with that. Yes. Another complaint that I have. So another complaint I had while we're talking about interpretations of Spider-Man and whatnot, I would say this is more of a like personal preference type of thing. But it's really not at this point. It's just one of the things that Spider-Man quips.
Yep.
This one does not.
There was none of that.
Like, he talks plenty during fights, but there was like no quips.
Yeah,
there, and I need a lot more quips moving forward. But they've already been greenlit for a third season, so I'd like to think between now and then we will get at least a couple. Oh my god, they at least are giving me some hope that he won't be so like, oh golly gee, I just wanted to be like you, Mr. Stark.
I just wanted to be like you, Mr. Osborn.
Oh my god. Okay. No. I gotta wait. There's so much good. There really wasn't a whole lot else that I didn't like. Oh yeah, the only The only other moment that I genuinely didn't, that I at least took note of that I didn't care for was they've given him a different group of like side characters.
Yeah.
And he's gotten his best friend in this one is Nico Minoru, who is in the comic books. Typically, she is part of the Runaways, which is a group of teenagers in California that find out their parents are supervillains, and so they run away. And it's a whole thing. There was a Hulu TV series about it. I think it's on Disney Plus now, but I thought it was really good. But there was like one moment with her that I was just like, don't do that. And it was the only moment that I didn't like, but I don't know why it bothered me so much. And it was when Peter's talking about he's got this internship with Norman Osborn. And she makes it clear she doesn't like Norman Osborn. So like, I get she's probably trying to protect him, but it's the fact that he's like, oh, I have to go right now. And he even says that it's like a paid internship and stuff. Which, side note, Norman never actually said, yes, it's a paid internship.
He said, I take care of my people.
He said, I take care of my people. That is not a yes.
Always get it in writing, kids. That's the number one lesson. Always get it in writing.
And then he's like, oh, we'll iron out details when you come by tomorrow. They do not iron out those details when he gets there. But anyway, Nico just like, when he's like, oh, I have to go right now. Nico's like, no, the game just started, and sits him down, trying to make him late on his first day for an internship. That is not a good friend.
That is not a good friend. And you know what?
What?
You know what, buddy?
What, bud?
I don't think I like Nico.
Hot take. Right out the gate.
Is it? First of all, character model. Second of all, like, why does she latch to him so quick?
Well, and the thing is, she's like, they allude to the fact that she also has a crush on Pearl.
Oh yeah, they do that.
And so whenever she's like, oh, you need to ask her out before somebody else does, and he's like, oh, you're not serious. Like, it seems like she's basically saying, like, you ask her out or I will. And then whenever
Lonnie
Peter gets
will.
ready to go, or Lonnie will, which was not on the bingo card, I guess. Like whenever he actually does go for the internship, Pearl sits next to her and is like, oh, no, it's fine. I'll sit next to you. And Nico's like, yeah, Peter, no, never mind. You can go. It's fine. But yeah, no. I honestly think that was pretty much it as far as negatives that I had.
I don't know if I really have enough to go on yet to say anything's a negative, besides how hideous it is. But, no, I think it was enjoyable. It's a kid show. You got to take kid shows for what they are, you know. I like that Doctor Strange had his little yellow gloves.
Yes. Oh my god.
With some sort of weird leopard pattern on the back, but that's fine. But yeah, I like comic book accuracy, especially on animated shows. I mean, come on now, you got to do it well in animated shows. I like his little mustache.
I also appreciated the like mustache. Sound alikes.
Yeah,
I also liked his mustache, but I liked that. Like, it wasn't Benedict Cumberbatch, but he sounded enough like him.
Yeah. You know,
while
we've had
still
enough
doing a different voice.
We've had enough of Benadryl Cucumber Bitch. Okay, let's get
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Burn the dirt, crumple, scrunch.
Yes, Smaug himself. Yes,
Smaug. He was very good. He was very good at Smaug. Behold my gold.
Literally, what do dragons do with gold other than just sit on it? It's anyway.
Well, this is an interesting topic of conversation, Carson.
It just really bothers me. It's always bothered me.
But
I get that just like usually a like story point is that it's like, oh, men like don't need the gold, so the dragons keep it for themselves. But it's like, you're not using it.
Yeah, well, you're doing less than what the men were doing with it.
Like,
and it's
let them kill themselves over it. Honestly, like,
you know how a lot of animals like shiny things. Maybe it's something as simple as like, I'm an animal and this is shiny stuff. You know what I mean?
Shiny? I like shiny.
Can you imagine Smaug? Oh, why are you doing this, Smaug? It was shiny.
That's basically what the crab in Moana is doing. He's just like, it's shiny.
You mean hippopotamus?
Yeah, Tomatoa, the hippopotamus. Yeah, the giant crab or lobster, whatever he was.
I think he's a hermit crab.
My son just keeps
that would
calling
explain
him crab,
why he.
so that's what.
That's clever. That would explain why he.
Why he's a hermit.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
I'll give him that one. That one's pretty good.
It's like when I figured out I called him OJ. That's why they called him the Juice, because his name is OJ.
You know, the amount of times now that Theron will like text me and just be like, I had another OJ moment.
Not the murder time. Not the murder moment.
No. But it took him so long. Oh, the fact that it took him so long, so many years of life, to finally message me and be like, oh, he's called OJ because he's the juice.
No, he's called the Juice because he's OJ.
He's called the juice. Yeah.
That's pretty clever.
Like, that was only like a few months ago now.
Yeah.
Like,
it was an OJ moment for sure.
Speaking of O's, one of my favorite moments was the end of the first episode. And it was like we brought up earlier, they basically recreate almost shot for shot the moment in Civil War when Tony Stark shows up at Spider-Man's apartment. Only instead of in the episode, instead of Tony, it's Norman Osborn. And I also hope that this guy plays live action Norman Osborn in the MCU. I think he's great already. But anyway, they even play the song "Left Hands Free" like they do in the movie, and it made me way too happy. And it's like the very last moment to where they time it out to where he's like, "Hi Peter, I'm Norman Osborn," and then the song goes, "Oh no." I thought that was the most brilliant thing ever. I also love that he's just decked out in green.
Yeah,
like, not so subtle.
Yeah, it's not super subtle.
And he's got the waves in his hair like in the comic books. That made me so happy. It's not been since the 90s that I've gotten to see Norman with the waves.
Wave check. Speaking of waves.
Yes.
Pearl.
Oh yeah, so almost every single main character that shows up and has lines is somebody like with powers in the comic books.
Yeah. Like the lizard. Like, they made him a lady.
Yes. Which, you know, if it's an alternate, like, so people already have complained about it. Like, oh, why are you making Dr. Connors a woman and not even a white woman? All of that.
A woman?
I know. Like,
it's 2024. It's 2025, bro. Anyone can be a woman.
We've seen that's even lizards can be women.
Women,
okay?
men have periods too. Okay.
We've seen Dr. Connors in some form or fashion so many times. It's fine. Nobody complained when they made Doc Ock a woman in the Spider-Verse movies. Yeah, it's fine.
Dr. Ock. Yeah, Kristen, I didn't even realize it was a lizard until my wife was like, "Oh my god, She only has one arm. And I was like, oh, that must mean she's the lizard.
They could have gotten away with just her being Dr. Connors.
Yeah.
And like nobody bats an eye, but the second you see that she has no arm,
you're like, oh, like, that's the lizard.
Like, and then even Dr. Whitman, who's like, I guess the head of the department or whatever, overseeing the other interns. Yeah, he's like a Fantastic Four villain called the Wizard.
Yeah, that's such a lame. That is not very Wizard. That name is not very Wizard.
But then, like, all the other interns are also, like, Asha is at least a named Wakandan. She's not like, I think she has superpowers. She's not necessarily a super big deal, but like,
yeah, in this universe, Wakanda is just known. It's just a thing. People are like, oh
yeah. He says that I don't remember if they say that he's Amadeus or not, but Amadeus Cho. Amadeus. Like he becomes the Hulk later. And then the one girl, Jean, there's a couple of people I thought I was kind of worried for a second. I was like, they're not having her be Jean Grey, right? That was my immediate thought, and I was like, no, they probably can't do that. But she's oh god, I've already forgotten what her last name is, but she's like Taskmaster's daughter.
Oh, just like in Black Widow movie.
And so she has like, it's technically in the comic books. It's never officially confirmed, but it's kind of just understood that yeah, she probably is. And so whenever like she's got the Black Widow movie didn't really explain what Taskmaster or who Taskmaster usually is in the comic books, but like he's got eidetic memory and can basically mimic anybody that he fights. And his daughter has the same type of abilities, and so I thought it was kind of funny whenever she's like, oh yeah, I'll probably forget you tomorrow. It's like, oh no, she can't.
I don't think so.
I don't think she will.
What's the next positive?
I had so much. There was so much that I liked.
Yeah,
and a lot of it was just like, oh my god, I recognize that thing.
It's also just entertaining, you know.
Yeah.
It was just fun to watch.
Thought, two of the funnier moments that I took note of. One was whenever Peter's trying to make an excuse to leave the other interns, and it's when they see that there's a fire on the news.
Oh yeah, I know where you're going with this.
And whenever it was like two parts of it. One, Asha is saying, that's a bit of a red flag, Peter. And then whenever he leaves, she's just like, hide the matches. Like, I just thought that was so simple and fun. Like, I liked that.
And then when he's fighting,
fights,
he's like,
it's butane.
When he's fighting butane, he's like, oh, the building on 51st Street. And they look out the window and they're like, oh, it's the wrong building.
And he gets so mad.
This building has nothing in it.
That was the most. Well, it was also like, it's so far, the show just feels like what the MCU Spider-Man, what I wish that had been.
Yeah.
And like, it was one of the most Spider-Man things ever that he had to like protect an entire pet store from this like fire-wielding maniac. And then at the very end, when he's like, he thinks he's beaten him, and they got me again. It was so simple, but he's like, oh, did I knock him out? And he wakes up for a second, and then he just slaps his head, and he just like bonk. And it's like, oh, yep, now you got him.
Yeah, no, he's out. Now he's out.
Oh, it was just, there were so many little moments like that I was like, oh, that's fun. That's funny. Like, they genuinely got me to laugh out loud even.
L to the O to the L. Maybe even L to the M to the A to the O.
Whoa there.
Perhaps even R to the O to the F to the L.
Hold those horses.
I don't like horses. They're coarse and they're rough and they get everywhere.
What?
I don't know, man.
I also
I'm just here to have a good time.
Another moment that I was like, wow, that's a really like Spider-Man moment that I really appreciated was there was like a mugger or a robber that I guess stole some money from it's like a pizza shop, I think. And for one, I was like, oh, that's just like a really cool Spider-Man thing to do. But also, it was one of those moments that I was like, yeah, this really is going to be one like, this is going to be one that I feel like my kids are going to say they grew up watching. And I appreciated it was like, he talks the shop owner into letting the robber go because they were just having like a tough go of it. And like,
oh yeah,
that really felt like it leaned into the
that
friendly
felt like
neighborhood Spider-Man part of it. Yeah,
because criminals aren't always black and white. It's what. Don't take that the wrong way. Criminals aren't the psychology isn't always black and white. Is what I'm trying to say. It's never like they're all good or all evil. She was really just. I believe her that she was just trying to provide.
Yeah.
And it's like he believed her too, and he was like, some people just have it rough, and he understood. And I mean, he really, it's kind of just the whole essence of Spider-Man.
Like, I feel like that it wasn't until No Way Home that they really like started to even tap into that in any like live action or just in the media outside of comic books, that they actually started to lean into the idea of him trying to not necessarily save his villains, but like doing more than just beating up bad guys,
I've seen. Have you seen that meme? It's that move in the Spider-Man video game where he pulls him in the air and brings his heel down on her neck, and the caption it was Spider-Man when a single mother steals a loaf of bread to provide for her children.
Oh no.
That's definitely more of a Batman thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutalize people just for small infractions. I don't kill them, but if they go in a coma, that's not my fault.
That had nothing to do with him.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get very. I don't think we're gonna be. This is a kids show, so I don't think we're gonna be grappling with like Spider-Man struggling with killing someone or anything like that. But I think for the kids show that it is, it's good. It's enjoyable.
I appreciated that because it seems like they're going to still cover some like actual like real things, but in a way that kids can actually follow and understand.
Yeah, and then, this brings me, I forgot to bring this up, but now I am, thanks to you.
Yes.
They didn't, like, they were showing sensitive subjects, but they didn't, like, make a big deal about it. Like,
yes.
Like, the cop profiling
exactly
Lonnie.
What I was getting to, yeah.
Yeah, the cop profiling Lonnie, like, it happened, and a kid wouldn't know what's going on in that scene, but people watching it are like, oh, wow, he just got profiled. But they didn't, like, make a huge deal about it. But they made sure it was like, yeah.
Most of the time, whenever, in modern media, especially, or even back in the day, really, especially for like Saturday morning cartoons or like Saved by the Bell, stuff like that. Whenever they would try to deliver some type of message or cover a serious topic, it's so ham-fisted and just shoved down your throat. It is not real, and it
Right.
makes it feel like the actual topic isn't that real. Um, and so I appreciated that out of all the things, this Spider-Man cartoon covered it in one of the most realistic ways that I've ever seen, with
Yeah.
like subtle racism,
Yeah.
in a way that it's not, shoving it down your throat, that it's like, oh, Lonnie's black and that's why they're doing that. Like they're not, they're not doing that. It's just like, you get it.
Yeah. If
And
you're an adult and you're watching this, you get it.
like I was sitting on my couch and I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's heavy, but it's like also the kids aren't really going to know what's going on, so it's not taking away from anything, making it too serious. And
And it was just, and that was just another thing that I got so invested in Lonnie as a character so
I want to
quickly.
date Lonnie.
Like,
Can I date Lonnie?
he's just such a cool guy, and it's gonna suck when he becomes a supervillain. Like,
no, he's gonna
I'm not ready for it.
He's definitely gonna have a flip. Something's gonna happen. Maybe to Pearl, because she's a superhero. I don't know if she is in this show, but she is in the comics, so I'm assuming there's a lot of characters that are like heroes or villains in the comics. I doubt the show's going to do much with them. I think they're just kind of subtle nods, but
I would assume that a bunch of them are, like, if you know who this is, then cool, and we're gonna kind of, at least get people more interested in seeing who they are in the comic books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I also just appreciated it, and that was part of what I liked, was that part of the whole thing was Spider-Man and uh his side characters and all of that, like whether it's his villains or his supporting cast, just all of that. People that like Spider-Man from the comic books also like his supporting cast. Like, we love J. Jonah Jameson and MJ, or Harry, Lonnie, like all of that. Like, so I appreciate that we actually care about Lonnie, and not so much Nico and Pearl yet, but like I feel like they're probably going to get their own episodes at some point. I'm not worried about that. I think they're going to get their time. Still plenty of episodes left. But yeah, like I'm actually interested. Like, I feel like these characters have lives outside of Peter, where even in the movies, MJ and Ned especially, I'm like, I think they got better in No Way Home, but before that I was just like, I don't know. Like, Ned was fine, but overall I didn't really care about the supporting cast. If it wasn't Spider-Man, I wasn't really invested as much. Where in this show, I can already feel like I actually just want to see everybody,
Yeah. No, I understand. I'm picking up what you're putting down. All 20 pounds of it.
But yeah, I don't really know if there's a whole lot left for me to.
Yeah, I don't really have. I mean, I don't really have much left either. We don't really have a lot of sample size, so can't really say a lot to quality, because know, who knows what they're setting up and knocking down later and stuff like that. So I think it's probably a good place to call it. I say, I'll start the conclusion this time.
You go right ahead.
If you're blind, it's a great show. I think it's definitely for kids, obviously, but that doesn't mean it has to be bad. I think it's good. Enjoyable. Cute, obviously. It's about little Twinkie high schoolers, so I just don't really have a lot to say about it yet. Except for I like the subtle nods to the comics and everything. So for the rating, I'll try to stay, because obviously there's more to be done, so I'll just stay middle of the road and I'll give it a 57.
Ooh. Oh.
Because it's good. So it's on the it's on the up and up.
Well, to yes and that, it is very much for kids, but I think that it is, but it's more of a family show, I would say, overall. Like, you can watch it with the whole fam. Me and my fiance and kids all enjoyed it when we watched it together. And so therefore it's already a lot better than Spidey and His Amazing Friends.
What was what was the one Spider-Man show? God, don't, Carson.
Yes.
Don't even get me started on Spidey and His Amazing Friends. Do not even get me started. Okay.
My daughter loves it, and so it got her to love Spider-Man, so I'll appreciate it for that. But watching it, oh my God, I have lost decades of my life just watching single episodes.
My favorite. Sorry to interrupt your conclusionary paragraph.
You go right ahead.
My favorite scene in that entire show, Spidey and His Amazing Friends, is when they're like going to a carnival, and they make a big deal about how cool it is, and they're like, wow, look at this, and the camera pans behind them, and it's the corner of a building with like 2 roller coasters cut off on either side.
Yeah. Like, oh, it wasn't in the budget to actually make it, was
it's
it?
Literally just like mostly the corner of a building.
Well, there's so much I could say about that stinking baby show, but it's
go back to your conclusion.
That one is very much geared towards like itty bitty babies, little children. This one, I appreciate that it is actually trying to be accessible to everybody, and yeah, it's the first time in a while that I've been excited about a Spider-Man thing. And I've gotten to be excited about it like week to week. I'm excited for this week's episodes. Yeah, they were only the animation is pretty hit or miss. Plenty of misses with it, but my eyes have adjusted already. So we're just gonna keep moving, and yeah, I'm invested in the story already and where it goes and how it deviates from the MCU Spider-Man that we've gotten to know.
Right.
I think the cast does a mostly good job with what they've got, and yeah, solid start for the first 2 episodes. To jump up on the score, because I'm pretty positive on it, and I'm very biased. Spider-Man is my guy, and they've gotten me hyped for it, and I may regret this later. I hope not. They've greenlit a 3rd season already, so I really, really hope that I do not regret giving it this high of a score already, just based off the first 2 episodes. But I see your 57 and raise you an 87.
Wow. That's
that was what I wrote down after watching the first 2 episodes. So that
really
was not just a spiteful. That's not just a spiteful 7 at the end of it, but yeah, I haven't stopped listening to the theme song since watching it, and I just keep liking it the more and more that I watch it and think about it. And,
You know what I like, Carson? Would you like to know what I like?
I don't know if I actually do, but what do
I
you
like my full head of hair. My very full, very attractive mop on my head, which is definitely there. And I'm not bald.
It just flows.
You know, I feel it flows.
It's so beautiful.
Flows
and
like a wave, and it's definitely there. And I'm not bald. It's the lighting.
It was what? The lighting?
It's the lighting.
The lighting that you chose?
It's the lighting that was there.
Hope y'all enjoyed, and we'll see y'all next time.